Outlaws of Thunder Junction. We're going to chaos draft here at the news desk. You all can do whatever you're going to do. Have a great time.
Thank you, Maria. We are going to do what we're going to do, and that is draft. That's right. It is Friday, early morning here at the PT. That's Monty DeVuti. I'm Marshall Sutcliffe. Thank you so much for joining us. And as we mentioned, we're going to be following along with Seth Manfield, one of the best limited players ever. When you get into Seth's realm, you're just one of the best players ever, but that always translates to both.
It really does. And Seth is a player who has always really excelled in limited environments and testing houses. He's the player to watch. And a lot of players have really tried emulating his drafting style to mix success.
Yeah.
It's unique.
It is unique. He kind of has his own take on formats. He values things the way that he values them. And as you can see, he's got a tough table here. As Maria and the gang pointed out at the news deck there, Stefan Schütz up in the upper left. You see Martin Yuza over to the right. Kane Reinhardt up in the upper right there as well. Just big names that are lurking in the field. And of course, if you haven't watched a draft with us here at the Pro Tour level, they do play in pods. So they will be playing against the players who they drafted against in a 3-set match here, as it were.
Yeah, it's a tough environment when this is your pod. You have a ton of Pro Tour top 8s among these players. Stefan Schütz asking some of the Team Handshake guys. David Inglis believes Stefan is the best player in the world without a top 8. So it's a tough competition.
Wow.
There are any.
Okay.
I'd also like to remind you
I did
that you're
not
not
know
permitted
that.
to look at other players' picks at any time during the drafting process. Please place all picks in a single face-down pile in front of you and do not review them until the designated revision period.
So this
Everybody,
is what we call
please
a
pick up the
called
envelope
draft. As you
labeled
can see, our
1A.
judge here is giving
Open
explicit
it, count the
instructions.
cards in a single face-down pile, and ensure there are 14 cards. Please note the one card will be facing a different direction than the rest.
Players are preparing their packs before we get into that first pack here for Seth Manfield. There are not only a lot of rares that you can open in a pack, you could get 2, 3, even 4 sometimes, but also there are a lot of very good rares. So this is definitely where he wants to start here, is opening up something awesome. Let's see what Seth picks up for pack 1. Pick one. Ooh, Stingerback Terror right to the front of the pack there. That's that 7/7 flyer. It does get smaller for each card in your hand, but it's often a 4/4, 5/5, 6/6.
Yeah, it's a caveat, but it's a very small caveat. The card is absolutely massive, undercosted at 4 mana, but also it has that plot mechanic, one of the new mechanics for OTJ, and being able to plot this on turn 3, spend a few turns maybe not putting it into play, depending on what you're playing around, whether it's removal spells or just wanting it to be a little bigger, and then you can play it for free later on when you've emptied your hand a bit if you want.
That's right. There was also a Mystical Tether in the pack that Seth had pulled to the front, but of course he's going to take the powerful rare here. So he starts things off with a dragon. Now, one downside here for Seth is that it is in red, which is, well, it's the worst color overall, but it can be a really good support color, so not all is lost here. Let's see what happens in pack 2. All right, well, he's got a Trained Airynx pulled to the front, perhaps signaling, oh, well, actually, there's an explosive derailment there, so maybe an easier pick here for Seth.
Yeah, I think red is the worst color, but when you open a bomb like the Stingerback Terror, you are incentivized to take it. I think this is going to be an interesting pick because Explosive Derailment, a lot of people believe, is the best red common.
Yeah.
It is a good removal spell, and removal is good in this format, but considering the white cards here really means that Seth doesn't want to lock in red.
Trained Airynx goes into the pile, so either he doesn't want to lock in red or maybe just loves a 2-drop. That Trained Airynx is, it's probably the most aggressive 2-mana common in the set. It hits really hard. I don't think it's ever been blocked the turn after it's been cast. Interesting, though. Oh, and he's got a Resilient Roadrunner there.
I think that's a Collective Defiance is our breaking news card.
Yep, you are correct. And there's also a Prairie Dog. So how much do you like 2-drops here, Seth? Because he has showed us, you know, by taking that Airynx, maybe he just doesn't want to be in red.
Seth Manfield loves 2-drops.
Wow.
That is a fact that has been true his entire career. In Limited, he likes being the beatdown. He likes being the player that is curving and making decisions to use that curve to play around his opponents. So it makes a lot of sense. Notably, the Terror is splashable. That plot cost is only a single red rather than the double red main cost.
So he must be thinking, I'm going to be base white here with a little bit of a splash at this point, given that he's pushed so hard into white. There's Cunning Coyote and a Thunder Salvo in this pack, though.
I love the Coyote. I think this card
took
is
the Coyote.
fantastic. 2 drops, Marshall. This card is
Wow.
fantastic.
Wow.
I actually think
Draft.
this is probably the
Please
pick that I
pass
most
10
agreed
cards
with
to your
other than
left.
the first rare. I think if you're going to be this aggressive red-white strategy, Cunning Coyote
Pick up
is
the pack.
the
You have
perfect card to
25
have.
seconds.
Really nice with the dragon, too. Okay. All right.
All right.
I'm interested. This is definitely a take here from Seth. He is going red, white, aggressive, and I mean aggressive.
10
He is
seconds.
not messing around, taking 2-mana threats. Of course, these are also good. Wow, and he
Another
continues
one.
the trend here. A discerning peddler now.
Draft. Please
Wow.
pass
So
9
he's got a
cards to your
dragon and
left.
all 2 balls here so far?
Yep, and the dragon
True
is
up, true up.
basically a 3-mana
Pick up
play,
the
so
pack. You have
Seth
20
has a
seconds.
very aggressive curve here.
Look at that, 2/2/2/2. Yeah, they also do work well, of course, with the Terror. You know, the Terror is at its best if you can
10
empty your hand on the
Yeah.
battlefield and get it to be huge as quickly as possible.
Another round, probably the most common rare in the format. I think I've had multiple drafts that I've seen
The most
3 or
common
4 of
rare.
these at the table.
Please pass
I
8
like that.
cards
We might
your
have to
left.
start picking what the most common rare is going forward. And another round is definitely on the
Pick up
short
the
list.
pack.
There's
You have
Stefan
20
there. You see
seconds.
Martin Yuza picking his
Ooh.
cards as well. What do you see here?
That's a Hellspur Brute.
Okay.
In terms of the payoffs for being
10
red, in
seconds.
terms of the payoffs for being aggressive, this 5-mana 5/4 trample, but having affinity for outlaws, that's a pretty aggressive creature that,
Draft.
if you can
Please
play
pass
undercosted,
7
is
cards to
very
your
strong.
left.
Interesting. Yeah, he is not
At this point,
super
I'll be no
hard
longer giving a
into the
10-second
outlaw
warning.
path just
Pick
yet.
up the pack. You have
Right, he's got
15
some
seconds.
animals, you know,
Yeah.
the prairie dog, the coyote, that type of stuff, but it's early, so
Yeah.
that could absolutely become a 2 or 3 mana play depending on how this draft goes for him.
Yeah, taking a look at the list, I think the only outlaw he has right now is actually that Discerning Peddler. So
Okay.
definitely lacking
Draft.
on the outlaws for
Please
now.
pass
But
6
red has a
cards
lot
to
of
your
them, and this
left.
is pack 1, so plenty of time to make that brute cheaper on
Pick up the
average.
pack.
He
You
took
have 10
Mirage Mesa
seconds.
over a Skull Crack there. He likes his 2-mana spells, but he likes them to turn sideways.
Skullcrack not ideal,
Right.
really, in this format.
He's got to return the
Draft.
favor, but that looks like the only
Please
card in
pass
his
5
colors
cards
here,
to
so
your
he's
left.
just going to go a little rogue here into blue for a Gin of Fool's Fall, but
Pick up the pack.
you know,
have
maybe
10
a slight
seconds.
hint. He does only have 2 white cards.
Yeah, and here's an interesting wheel, Ionize. This was in the second pack Seth saw, so
okay.
maybe thinking if this Ionize wheels, he
Please
might want
pass
to leave
4
himself
cards to
open
your
for
left.
a blue-red direction, does
Pick up
wheel
the
it
pack.
as
You have
potentially
5
predicted.
seconds.
Blue-red, I would say the 2 weakest colors in the format,
They
so
are.
maybe not the ideal
Please pass 3
combination
cards to
that
your
players
left.
would be looking for.
Yeah, he picks
Pick
up a
up the
Quill
pack.
Charger
You have
here late
5
in the pack. It's interesting because there's really good news and really bad news for Seth at this point.
Draft.
The really good news is
Please
that
pass
he
2
has
cards
not
to your left.
solidified his second color. He
Pick up
is
the
base
pack.
red
You have
and he
5
has
seconds.
directions he can go. But the bad news is that red is the least strong color overall. So
Draft.
he does need to go into a color that will complement
Please
it
pass
and
the
also
final
perhaps
card to
give
your
him
left.
2
Maybe
packs
if you look
worth
at it
of
before
punch,
placing on
you
top
know,
of the
that he
rest
could
of your
actually
picks.
capitalize on.
Yeah, and
Please leave all cards in a
I
single
wouldn't
face
exactly
down
call
pile
this a
until we
trap,
get to the
but this is a
designated review
position
period,
I've found myself
which is
in
now.
quite a few of my drafts.
Mm.
As
You
it
have
becomes
60
more
seconds.
clear that red is the quote-unquote worst color, when you open a good red rare and then see the red cards that maybe other players are passing on because they don't want to be red, you continue to dig yourself deeper and deeper into red. And suddenly you find yourself in this spot. I've had drafts that were mono red because I couldn't
I see.
solidify a second direction.
That's tough.
And you can't find the exit lane out of it.
Okay.
And right now, Seth really needs to find something that strongly cements him in a second color.
Right.
And hopefully, ideally, that color actually becomes his main color.
I
Because
see.
You really don't want red to be the dominant color in your deck. You want it
Yeah.
to have strong cards that are playing the support role.
Yeah, right now it feels like white is the most likely with the Prairie Dog and the Trained Airynx as they fit the plan that he has the best. Power level, they're fine.
Yeah.
They're decent cards. I know he did get a couple of those blue cards late, but none of those are reasons to be in red-blue. I mean, I would need some rares. I would need some real punchy stuff to make me want to
Please
go down
return
that
all
road.
cards
For
to
the
a
reason that
single
you said,
face-down
Monty,
pile in front of you.
it's the 2 weakest colors coming together. You can win with any color
Right.
pair in this format.
Please pick
There's
up the
nothing that's just
envelope
like
labeled
avoid at all
B.
costs, but
Open
it
it,
can't be really where
count
you want to be.
pack in
All right,
a
here's pack
face-down
number
pile
2.
to ensure
Let's see
there
if
are
Seth can
14 cards.
find a solid
Once again,
direction,
please note the one
particularly
card
for
will
that
be facing a
second
different
color.
direction than the rest.
or if he ends up going down that road that you said, where it's like, you know what, I'm going to be a base red, and I'll fill in the cracks with something else later. Let's see what he's got.
I will say his white cards are definitely better than his blue cards right now.
Yeah.
If you had to pick one of the two colors just off of this snapshot, it's the white.
Okay, let's see what he's got here.
Oh, Bristly Bill.
Bristly Bills. That's one of the best rares in the whole set, actually. It's interesting.
Old Bill.
That's like the first decent green card. So for those of you that haven't had a chance to draft this set a lot, green is the best color, and it's by a significant margin, but the players at this table know that, and that's why you don't see green flowing around. But that's like a top 5 rare in the set right there.
Yeah. See, I think Seth should explosively derail his draft and take this Bristly Bill.
Green-red is an awesome color pair. This is a good sign for him to get that second color into a much better direction in green, and then he can use red as kind of his base. Whoa. Oh, he's going to take explosive derailment. Oh, he threw me a curveball there, Monty.
Seth loves his 2-drops, so he just said no to one of the best, if not the best 2-drop in the entire set. You know, it's a disciplined
I need to reset.
maybe.
Hold on. Yeah, I need a minute here, Monty. I just thought he was going to take it.
I was all in on the Bristly Bill trade.
Okay, I get it, though. I think his reasoning is that green has not been open in any way.
Right.
It may just be this pack that he even has any chance to pick up significant green cards, and he knows that he's red, so he takes like the best red common, as you said. Oh, I would have taken that bill, though. I'm sure he had to. That was a very tough decision.
Yeah, he thought about that for most of the allotted time. Picking up a Gila Courser here, very solid mount. Typically will trade off with most creatures in those early turns and get you an extra card. That clause until the end of your next turn means that even if you hit a land or a higher costed spell, you should be able to cast it. So really, really solid card.
I'm really surprised he took that derailment. You know, you can also splash.
Yep.
Anyway, I'll get over it.
In time.
Let's see where he
here's a
goes
card that
from
we're
here.
down for. He's looking at the Loan Shark.
Loan Shark's sweet.
And I think this is another nod to the fact that Seth's second color is not set. We saw him pick up that Gila Courser over the Vigilante as a 2-drop, which was white, saying that red is what I'm definitely at. And not much in that pack, so now picking a blue card, keeping the options open.
You have 25 seconds.
It's really interesting because as you look, if we're correctly reading his reasoning as being green hasn't been open at this table, that has continued.
Yes.
You know, like if he would have taken Bristly Bill here, he would have taken, you know, red and then maybe something else after. But like, it's not like that road is wide open for him.
The thing is, nothing else seems to be open. And if you tell me I'm going to end up with 20 red cards and then 3 blue, white, or green cards where one of them is Bristly Bill, give me the 3 green cards.
Fair.
Ooh, that's not a good sign. There's a Buried in the Garden in this pack.
Yeah, no, that card always, I never pass that.
Yeah,
I love that
green,
card,
white,
but
one of the
so
best
far
combinations in this format. And it's not picked. It's here 5th pick right now. Seth is not in either color.
Discerning Peddler.
Yeah, this is where you feel a little bad about the draft. It's like Buried in the Gardens are going around, and I'm picking a Discerning Peddler.
Yes.
Like, I know you love 2-drops, but there's a line.
This is getting a little bit of a bumpy ride. Okay, here's a little hope, though. There's a Mystical Tether now.
And a Holy Cow.
And a Holy
Cow. Yeah, Tether is great. It's, you know, probably the best white common removal. The Airings being a better creature, I would say. But having access to 3-mana removal is great. And I think we've talked about how good removal is in the format. So for Seth, having a deck full of 2-drops that has some removal to punch it up, not a bad place to be considering his play style.
Form a Posse is in his 2 probably primary colors.
10 seconds.
Form a Posse is...
It's fine.
It's fine. That is the perfect word. It's the type of card that if I'm in Boros middle of the pack, I'm going to take. If I'm in Boros and I see it early, I'm probably going to pass it because not many people want to be in Boros. I'm going to hope to wheel it, and if I don't, it's not a big loss. That's the type of card, and I would never move into Boros for it.
Vengeful Townsfolk.
Yeah, getting more tempting now that you have a bunch of 2-drops and a Form of Posse. This is the type of, you know, bread and butter, not ideal, not bad 3-drop that you're okay playing. It's your 23rd, 22nd card.
Yeah, it's
Pick up
feeling
the
like
pack.
the
You have
ceiling
10
on the power level.
seconds.
Yes, his discipline has led him into a spot where he's definitely going to have enough playables, but the peak
Draft.
power level of
Please
his
pass
deck,
5 cards to your right.
not very high.
Yeah, take for a ride there. I would say a swingy card, but a potentially
Pick up the
powerful
pack.
one.
You have 10
Seth opting to
seconds.
take one last job there.
Sure.
And he does have 3 mounts already, so definitely the potential is there to get the solid 2-for-1 value out of that. But
Draft.
I found one last job to
Please
be
pass 4
pretty
cards to your right.
expensive and unimpressive in the format. Maybe I would have gambled
Pick up
on
the
taking
pack.
the
You
threaten
have 5
effect and just,
seconds.
I'm aggressive, I'm going to try to kill you.
Draft.
Now, this table's
Please
been
pass
really
3
interesting
cards to your
too
right.
because, you know, we're assuming that he
Pick up
didn't
the
take
pack.
Bill
You have
because he
5
felt the
seconds.
green wasn't open, but it should have been open this pack.
Yep.
Like he had no green coming through
Draft.
him at all
Please pass
in
2
pack 1, so
cards to
he
the
was.
right.
You know, the ideal
Pick up the
situation would
pack.
be you
You
take
have 5
Bill,
seconds.
you get good green cards or at least enough green cards out of this pack, and then you kind of go, okay, I'm going to brace for the impact on
Draft.
pack 3 because I'm not getting
Please
anything
pass
else.
the
There's
final
been no
card to
green
your
this
right.
direction either.
It is.
Like, how many green drafters are at this
placing on top
table?
of the rest of your cards.
A good amount, and one of them probably got it buried in the garden
All right.
between 6th and
You're gonna have a
8th pick, so
90-second review
they are
period.
ecstatic.
Starting now.
Looks like Seth has solidified himself into red-white at this point. You know, that did seem the most likely coming out of pack 1, but, you know, with the Forma Posse and the Mystical Tether there and a couple of random playables, Magebane Lizard and the Vengeful Townsfolk, you know, if he needs them, he will certainly be enough on, you know, playables and such. But as I said, you know, outside of the terror there that he's got at the front, you know, we're pretty flat power level here for the deck. But consistency goes a long way. Consistency of game plan goes a long way, and these are really strengths of Seth.
Yeah, and this is the Pro Tour, right? At the
Nothing
Pro
easy.
Tour, there are no easy wins. Very rare you see a 10 out of 10 deck, a 9 out of 10 deck, because everybody's taking the good cards. So yes, this deck probably has a higher concentration of what we would call 21st to 23rd playables than you would like. You probably have, you know, 6 or 7 of them where you'd like to have 3 to fill those slots.
Right.
But that is more common at the Pro Tour, and it's not a sign that the draft has necessarily gone poorly. This is just the lane that Seth has been handed more or less in his seat.
Exactly. Now, things could go very well in pack 3. As I mentioned, there's many powerful rares, and
10
he could
seconds.
pick up a couple of those. He could improve his low-end curve a little bit with a few more Aringses or something along those lines.
Please return
Still a lot
all
of room
picks
here
to a
with
single
a third of the
face-down
draft
pile in
left
front of you.
ahead of us.
Yeah, there's
Please
quite a
pick up
few
the
powerful
envelope labeled
uncommons in
C.
white
Open it.
specifically.
Count the
If you
packs
can
in
get
a
some of
face-down
those,
pile
that would
to
be
ensure
ideal.
there are
Of
14
course, a good
cards.
rare would
Once
go
again,
a long
one
way
card will be
in
facing a
opening.
different direction
But
than the rest.
Seth does need a little bit of help. His deck lacks that punch that you're really hoping for.
Yeah, his deck will have good matchups against slow or clunky mana decks, but against mid-range decks with good curves, good mana,
Pick up the pack.
he's going to have
you
a hard
have 40
time.
seconds.
Let's see what he opens up here for his last pack. If he can pick up something amazing.
I saw Morbid
Vial
Opportunist
Smasher,
as a
that's
special guest. That doesn't help you.
Okay, there's another explosive derailment.
Another round. The most common rare.
There it
before
is.
that. Another one, Marshall.
Yeah, there's that special guest Morbid Opportunist that you mentioned, Monty.
I think of
It's just
Fell
gonna
the
be another
Mighty
derailment.
as the breaking news, but yeah, just take
It's fine.
take the removal.
Totally fine.
It's a fine card. That, unfortunately, that's how I would describe most of Seth's deck.
Right.
And you're really hoping pack 3, pick 1, you're doing better than
Draft.
fine.
Please
You're
pass
you're
13
hoping,
cards to
great,
your left.
I'm excited. It's fine.
It's fine.
Pick up
It's
the
usually
pack.
a one
You have
for one.
35
Yeah.
seconds.
He would like to take up the shield here, by the way. I don't think he's seen a
He would
single
love
one
it.
of those.
Nope.
All right, what has he got here?
I see.
Another Discerning Peddler? That is kind of his card. Oh, there's a Nurturing Pixie there as well.
Yeah, has a Sterling Keykeeper, I believe, and an Arietta's Lullaby.
Okay.
So a few options in this pack, but
Let's see what he
look,
takes. I'm curious. He does love a
10
2-ball.
seconds.
he does love a 2-ball. It is an outlaw. Those are all relevant
Oh,
packs.
true, true.
It can smooth out your draws.
And Brute. Okay.
I think with a really low curve and multiple peddlers, you can justify
Draft.
playing a 16-land
Please
deck
pass
and
12
just
cards to your
really
left.
play to hit your curve and not flood if you draw too many lands more than you need. So the peddler
Pick
does
up the
do a
pack.
lot
You have
in
30 seconds.
more aggressive-oriented decks.
Oh, there's a prickly pear there as well.
Prosperity Tycoon, and a ride down.
Okay.
All right, so now he has
Ooh, and a ride down. Wow.
premium Boros removal, but this is where we go back to what I said about form a posse. I'm going to assume I'm the only Boros drafter at the table because no one
10
else wants to be
seconds?
Boros.
Definitely.
I'm going to take the Tycoon, and I think Seth
And try to
feels like
wheel it.
80% of the time he wheels that ride down.
I agree. Yeah, I like that a lot. Prosperity
Draft.
Tycoon hits a
Please pass
Tycoon,
11
hits a
cards
really
to your
nice
left.
part of his curve as well. When you do go down to the fewer, the 16 land
Pick up
type
the
decks,
pack. You have
these
25
4-drops end up
seconds.
being mostly the top of your curve. I would be surprised if he had anything that cost more than 5. Was there another Coyote there?
Another Coyote. All right.
Your favorite.
Now he's cooking. This is good. This is aggressive. Now he has things to set up
10
very
seconds.
aggressive curves. 2-drop into Coyote, plot Coyote, 3-drop. He can do a lot of work with 2 Coyotes in terms of his explosiveness.
I like this. This is a
Draft.
nice punch
Please
up
pass
on his
10
power level
cards
here
to your
early in
left.
pack 3, particularly if he can get that ride down back. That's an excellent card for his
Pick up
deck.
the
He is
pack.
going to be
You have
very
25
aggressive,
seconds.
forcing people to tap out. And currently, if somebody plays something with like 5 toughness, he's really only got the
Ooh.
mystical tether. Is that another brute?
Another Brute. Now, notably, he is lacking on Outlaws. Normally,
Okay.
10
you'd like
seconds.
your deck to have, 9,
Right.
10 Outlaws to really make this Brute fantastic.
What does he have, 5 or 6?
I think
or
he's
something?
around like 4 or
4 or
5 right
5.
now. The
Draft.
Tycoon makes a
Please
mercenary
pass 9
token.
cards.
Yeah,
to the
that's
left.
tough. The pair that he passed a
Yeah,
little
the
bit
prickly
ago
pear,
would've
that
been
would have
nice.
been
20 seconds.
it's fantastic curve
Yeah.
here. But,
Well, let's see what maybe you can scrap together just enough of an outlaw.
I see an Outlaw. I see a
10
Keykeeper. That's a
seconds.
mercenary.
Okay.
So 2-drop and an Outlaw. It does work.
Sterling Keykeeper. It's also 2 mana.
Now, premium red-green uncommon there being
Draft.
passed.
Yep.
Please pass
That is
8
a
Back to
scary
cards
one.
to the
Yeah.
Yeah. Those days are
Pick up
over
the
here
pack.
for
You have
Seth.
20
But yeah,
seconds.
there's some.
What could have been.
Yeah, definitely
But-
a little bit of that.
I think Seth's decision making has been correct. He's ended up more or less where he should be.
10
Quick draw.
seconds.
Sure.
Not
It's a
ideal.
little frustrating because he would like a couple of combat tricks and is a little bit low, but quick draw is
Not that one.
not the one that you
Yeah.
want. It is a little
Draft.
weird that he wasn't
Please
able to
pass
pick up a
7
few
cards to the
more.
left.
No take up the shields at all.
Hasn't
No
seen a
longer
single
be
one in
getting
the whole
a 10
draft.
second
Yeah.
warning.
I would
Pick up
bet
the pack.
Seth's been
You
on the
have
lookout.
15
He hasn't seen
Definitely.
one. Ooh, that's a nice one.
What does he find here?
Irascible Wolverine.
Okay.
That's a good one. That is a very nice creature to have in these aggressive decks.
Another
It-
good plot card.
Yeah, plays a role. It has plot.
Draft.
It typically
Please pass
draws
6
you a
cards
card
to your
in some
left.
way or another. It's strong.
Good pickup
Pick up the
late
pack.
here for
You
Seth.
have
This
10
pack has been
seconds.
helpful. This has definitely bumped out some of his lower end playables.
It comes around again.
It's another round.
Another round around the table.
Draft. Please pass
Oh, that's
5
really good. He's
cards
just
to
going to
your
cut
left.
a card here. Again, when you play leagues on Arena, cutting cards doesn't really do
Pick up the
anything. You're not
pack.
going to
You
be
have
playing
10
against the players that you're
seconds.
drafting against. But here it can matter. Oh, the Nurturing Pixie came back too.
That's a nice one.
Yeah.
Playing the Pixie is nice. 1-drop can, reset one of your peddlers, get you another rummage.
Draft.
That
Please
is
pass
definitely
4
good.
cards
If this
to
is a
your
1-mana 2/2 flying, even if it's not on turn 1, that's great. When your deck has
Pick
a
up
lot
the
of
pack.
2-drops,
You have
if you're
5
turn 3
seconds.
after a 2-drop
Boom.
on turn 2,
There's
it's
the ride
Pixie
down.
2-drop. There you
Wheeled
go.
it. Never a
Draft.
doubt. Yeah,
Please
I
pass
like your
3
take on
cards
it,
to
Monty.
your left.
75, 80% to come back.
up the pack.
And I really
You have
like that
5
Seth
seconds.
also saw it that way and got it back because that's automatically one of the best cards he got out of this pack.
Yeah, I
Draft.
think when you're in Seth's
Please
position,
pass 2 cards to
it's
your
about the
left.
math, and
Pick up
when
the
it
pack.
pays off,
You have
you know
5
you're in the
seconds.
right lane. You've made good decisions. There you go. You're happy.
A very
Draft.
disciplined draft
Please
here
pass
for
the
Seth.
final card to your left.
I kind of go
You
back
may
to what you
briefly
said,
review
Monty.
it
It
before placing
feels
on top of
like
all
this
of the
was
rest
his
of your
seat, whether he
picks.
wanted it or not.
Yeah.
At
There
this
wasn't a
point,
lot of
please
wiggle
briefly
room.
Review all of your picks to ensure
Could have
they
taken
a
Bristly
stamp on
Bill
the
and looking to
face.
try to go into green. As it turns out, it would not have panned out for him. That would
No.
have been his only green card. I mean, he gave up, an explosive derail. He would have given up an explosive derailment. It's not the type of card that makes or breaks your deck to take a shot on it. But it is nice that he has that one extra removal spell now.
Yeah, I don't think he's regretting it. I think this was the deck in his seat. I think it turned out fine. I'm not unhappy with it. As far as Boros aggro decks go, again, not the lane I want to be in.
Right.
But at the Pro Tour, it's not about the lane you want to be in. It's about the lane you're supposed to be in.
Exactly.
And this felt right.
Yeah, well put, Monty. That is, you have to play your seat. That's the thing at the PT. You can't decide what deck you like ahead of time. You can't decide what strategy you like ahead of time. You have to be able to draft any deck, and the one that presents itself to your seat is the one. And that's what he did here. It's a low to the ground, consistent, aggressive deck. The overall power level isn't super high. If he faces a bunch of solid mid-range decks, he's going to have a very long day at the tables. But if he faces a bunch of slow, clunky, tap land, I'm trying to do a whole bunch of stuff decks, he is going to run them over.
It is the type of deck that Seth is really good with in Limited. And, Seth is very good with everything. He's an incredible player. But this type of low-to-the-ground, high decision-making sort of deck where the way you sequence your cards, the way you use your resources because you have to scrap for every point of damage, get across for just lethal with haste out of nowhere using a Coyote. This is Seth's excellent sort of deck.
He knows how to play these
perfectly.
perfectly.
This is his style.
Let's see what his list looks like. We actually have a chance to see how he built it because he did have a ton of playables. Quick upper right is where I look first, and he did go with 16 lands here. I mean, this looks like about as straightforward as you could possibly get for a red-white deck.
Again, fine is exactly the word I would use for all of this deck. The curve is good. Removal, maybe you would like one more, but you really do need a high creature count in this type of Boros aggro deck. He's got that. My only complaint, not that many outlaws. Taking a look, there's 7, I think, if you count the token that you're getting from the Prosperity Tycoon. So, a little low. I'm not going to count the brutes for each other. That's a little ambitious. So, 7, not bad, not great.
Yeah, but looking at it, he curves at 4.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, his top-end cards, including the brutes, are going to be at 4 at the most. So very nice deck here for Seth Manfield. Looks solid. I think it's going to be a lot of matchup questions coming up. We're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we will have round number 1. Don't go anywhere.